Sounds like an activity that would take place here on the Monterey Peninsula. This is an invitation for us to gain insight into how sharks are often misunderstood and how we are often misunderstood. How we depict sharks and sometimes ourselves or others as dangerous and menacing. And to recognize the exact opposite of that is that sharks and each one of us are magnificently created creatures that play a vital role in the interconnectedness of all life. Sometimes we think of living in this physical human form as the interconnectedness of all life, but all of nature, all of creation is interconnected. We're all interdependent on one another. In this thing called you, Ernest Holmes wrote, "You exist that divine feeling, fire, imagination, and creativity may be expressed through you. The Spirit comes to you as a new and fresh creativity. You need not ask what others have done or how they've done it. Be yourself and express life as you find it. Never imitate." And his comment here, "never imitate," reminded me of an experience I had during the week. I think I've shared with you that I use Insight Timer as a meditation app. I have it on my phone and also on my computer. And they offer a number of courses, some of a short duration, maybe 7 to 10 days, some 30 days, and some longer. And the one that I'm using now is a 7-day short course titled Compassion, 7 days to a more regulated, spacious, and courageous you. And how the never imitate connected with this is that one of the sessions this week invited us to call to mind someone we compare ourselves to. Someone that we may think that has more than we have. You know, maybe a better relationship, a better job, earning more income, has more social influence, or whatever the more is that we may find ourselves in awe of someone else having and thinking that we don't have. So the invitation was to imagine that we and this person, this individual, were sitting together and we were just there in a heart-to-heart experience. And it was a nice sunny day and we were watching the clouds roll by, not really having a conversation, but just being in the presence of one another. And recognizing that within each one of us, there is a heart's desire to be seen, to be recognized, to be heard, and to be loved. And the growth aha for me was that I could not think of anyone that I compare myself to. And that's a big step for me because I've admired other colleagues and I still admire other colleagues who are expressing their magnificence and their greatness in their ministry, however that ministry is unfolding. And what I find though is that it is an appreciation and it is not a comparison. That has not always been my experience. And so out of this is a recognition that we grow through periods of joy and sorrow, self-doubt, insecurity, regret, and we also grow in grace. We all experience times of great happiness and success. And I think in this quote from Holmes in This Thing Called You, he is inviting us to celebrate our unique existence, regardless of what others think. And this takes us back to the shark. The shark is often seen as a lone predator, stealthy, solitary, and feared. Much like the myth of rugged individualism, the shark is portrayed as a creature that thrives on its own, needing nothing and answering to no one. However, like each of us, this is not the whole story. In truth, the shark is not separated from the sea. It belongs to an intricate, interdependent ecosystem. It keeps the balance, culling the sick and the weak, allowing coral reefs to flourish, helping schools of fish to thrive. It moves alone, yes, but its aloneness is not isolation. It's participation. It is purpose. Rugged individualism tells us that we must go it alone to succeed. However, wholeness comes when we recognize that we are not the shark, that we are the sea, that we are not alone, we are in this together. We are not here to dominate, we are here to harmonize. And I think this is the message that I'm inviting us to carry in our hearts as we look at what is happening in the world of effect. You know, it seems that there's this quest to dominate. Somebody always has to be on top, and somebody else has to always be on the bottom. As spiritual beings, our calling is to be here to harmonize with ourselves. This is where it begins, and to harmonize with each other. And so in harmonizing, there are some transformative questions that I invite us to consider. What can we become to outgrow the limits that no longer protect us? And what stories can we unlearn that keep us from being truly who we are? And so by framing these questions as a what rather than a how, we open ourselves to the guidance of Spirit to reveal the how. We ask what, and we listen, and the how is revealed. And so there are some possibilities that I offer. One is surrounding yourself in a loving community as we have created here at the Monterey Center, and as our spiritual communities have created globally. Last week, I referenced the book Undrowned: Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Mammals by Alexi Pauline Gumbs. And today I offer some citations from this book, inviting us to remember that it's okay to be fully who we are. Think about that for a minute, and maybe have it as an affirmation. I am okay to be fully who I am. Gomes refers to some lies about sharks in this particular chapter. And she says that these lies are what humans have used to justify their violence and alienation of sharks. And so as we consider the lies about sharks, I invite us to consider the ways we justify violence and alienation among our own human siblings. The first lie, she says, is sharks travel alone. And the translation into the human experience is that we're to cultivate our sharp individuality. Gomes says this, not so. Reminds me of the story of an old practitioner that many of us may have heard. And this practitioner had great wisdom, and when people went to her for counsel, she is described as sitting in a rocking chair and listening to their stories, listening to whatever it is that they were experiencing at the moment. And she's just very gently rocking back and forth in the rocking chair. And as they finished their stories, her response was, "Tain't so. Tain't so." That's a very strong example of a denial of a false reality that is appearing real. And so our goal is to say, "Tain't so." And so Gomes says in her book, "Not so," and offers the example of the black-tip reef shark. That's a mouthful. This particular shark is primarily seen in the Pacific and the Indian Oceans, and it is also seen in other places around the world. The black tip reef shark is highly social and finds safety in numbers. Therefore, community is the stronger approach, is what Gomes is offering to us. And then she asks, how have you internalized the notion that you should go it alone? That successful people are self-made, or that you should be self-reliant? The truth is, no one is self-made. We all rely on other people for our successes and for our failures. We succeed by surrounding ourselves with a loving community, with people who cherish our unique qualities and lift us up. We find this in spiritual community, and we also find it in our other connections with individuals. And so to find ourselves in a loving community, we cherish those who are around us, and we honor the unique qualities and the gifts that they bring that lift us, and we in turn lift one another. The second lie that Gomes offers is sharks are powerful and effective because they hide. And the translation into the human experience is, no one will appreciate me if they truly see who I am. Remember the truth. You are beautiful just the way you are. The divine quality of wholeness reminds us that all of who we are is encompassed in the wholeness of the divine. We are all expressions of the divine. And so as we begin to embrace our gloriousness, I love this word, our gloriousness, we can embrace radical self-love, which leads to radical self-love of others. And in the book, The Body is Not an Apology, Sonia Renee Taylor writes this: radical self-love is not an impossibility. It is your inherent sense of self. You came here to this planet as unapologetic radical love. And I'm just reflecting on an opportunity I had to witness the birth of my first grandchild, to actually be in the birthing room when he appeared in this form. And just the love that was surrounding everyone in that room as he made his appearance, and how that love continues to express itself in all of our family connections with each other. As we explore this idea of radical self-love, it invites us to ask these questions about ourselves. We question all the ways we have learned to hide ourselves. I think we can say that we're masters at hiding ourselves. The invitation is to be our authentic self. Identify the ways that we have been taught not to trust our intuition and to fear others because that is what we have been told to do. Again, bringing it back to the world of effect, bringing it back to what we are experiencing right here in our own country and seeing throughout the various places of the planet. And this is what the news media is promoting. And it is not the truth. But the news media is reporting that we have to fear the other because of, and fill in the blank. Our duty and our responsibility as spiritual beings is to remember the inherent worth of each person and to acknowledge where it is that we are different, where it is that we may not be in agreement with one another, and to listen with an opening ear, to listen for understanding of what the experience of another person is that has brought them to the place where they are. And to recognize that our responsibility is to recognize our own worth And by doing so, we see the inherent worth in all people. So to fully embrace ourselves, we are required to let go of the story that society has told us. And we embark on the transformative journey to embrace the wisdom that has been passed down through the generations, through our ancestors. And when we listen with that open ear, we do hear the voices and the direction of the ancestors. We find the courage, and we are encouraged to shed the patterns that no longer serve us as we recover our spiritual whole selves. And so, like the shark, we may be misunderstood. Others may fear our power, mislabel our presence, or mistake our strength for aggression. Our true nature, like the sharks, is not about separation. It's about a relationship with the ocean. It's about a relationship with the web of life, with the unseen current that carries all of us through this life journey. And so some takeaways that I would offer this morning is to do not hide those parts of yourselves because others think you are dangerous. Embrace all of the parts of who you are and honor those. Embrace all of the parts, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the grace, the compassion, the love, the joy. Get curious about yourself and others. You know, I like to say that my life is a journey of exploration and expanding, and I'm always learning something new about myself. And in our curiosity about others, honor them for who they are and for the way that they find meaning in the world. Embrace the contradictions. That can be our challenge. At least I'll personalize it. For me, that can be my challenge, to embrace the seeming contradictions. And again, it's like taking that deep dive into the ocean that we're invited to do with our theme this month, Rolling in the Deep. Take that deep dive under the surface and to see that these seeming contradictions are only different experiences of our life's journey. And we'll see where those experiences intersect, where those experiences may be similar, or when we know just a little bit about another person's experience, then we have a greater understanding of how they are showing up. Look into those places that scare you. And I conclude with this quote from Gumbs in the book Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons for Marine Mammals. And she writes this: what if you could hear the world between your heartbeats slow down enough to deepen into trust? What if you could hear the world between your heartbeats slow down enough to deepen into trust? And as we deepen into this trust of ourselves and our trust of the world around us, I invite us to say our affirmation for the week, and we will say this 2 times. As I breathe deeply, I delight in being exactly who I am. As I breathe deeply, I delight in being exactly who I am. And I invite us to breathe in together. Let's take in a nice, deep, cleansing breath. And releasing it. Let's do that again. Breathing together and releasing. And let's do it one more time. Breathing in very deeply together and releasing. And with the release, let us join together in knowing the truth that God is and that all is well. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is whole, it is perfect, it is complete. It is a life that I am living, and it is a life of all living beings. It is that life that interconnects us one to another. It is that life that involves the ecosystems. It is that life that involves the sharks and the other creatures that live in the oceans, live in the depths of the oceans. It is the life of our four-legged friends, our fur friends. It is the life of the winged ones that fly through the air. It is the life of the trees, of the planets, of everything that has breath. And I'm reminded of the expression that says, let everything that has breath praise the Spirit. And so as I turn into my own breath, I breathe into this source which sustains and supports and guides my every being. I breathe into that source that invites me to be who I am, to be a representation of its creation here in this spiritual form, living in this human experience. And as I breathe into all of this for myself, I invite each one to breathe into this reality of the allness of life contained within each heart that is present here in our center and that is present within those who are viewing this particular program via the methods of technology. Giving thanks for all of creation, giving thanks for everything that supports us to live our authentic lives. I speak my word this morning in appreciation and acknowledgement for places where people are gathering in the name and nature of the one life, the one wholeness, the one power. However it is that they describe this universal presence, this creative experience that unites us all together. Knowing that where two or more are gathered in the name and nature of the one life, love and only love prevails. And so I call forth that highest idea of love from within each one of us in this moment, knowing that it is love that sustains and supports and carries us through the daily experiences of being a spiritual being living in this human form. I pray for our country. I speak a word of blessing for our leaders, those whom we agree with and those whom we don't agree with, knowing that at the heart of each one, there's that kernel of love and light. It is not mine to judge whether that light has been covered or whether it is illuminating. My job is to see the light, to see beyond the appearance, and to know that love and only love prevails, and that God did not bring us this far to leave us abandoned in what we're surrounded with by, I love to call, weapons of mass distraction. I speak my word of blessing this morning for those who are experiencing transitions in their lives, however those transitions may be showing up, as a health opportunity, as a wealth opportunity, as right housing, as right livelihood. Whatever it is, the scripture reminds us to make our appeals known. And in our teaching, Ernest Holmes reminds us to speak our word knowing that the Spirit always says yes. And so as I stand in the yes to love, the yes to life, the yes to being authentic, I embrace this for all people in all places, everywhere, right here, right now, in this moment. And for this and so much more that I have words or thoughts to express in this moment, I give thanks. And for the desires of each heart, whatever that desire is, know that the Spirit is saying yes. Yes, I love you. Yes, I see you. Yes, I know who you are. You're a divine expression of the I am. You are me, and I am you. And so giving thanks for what has been spoken, giving thanks what remains in the recesses of our hearts and minds, I release this word into that law, which always says yes, knowing it is propelled into action by love. And I just allow it to be so. And if any of what I have said resonates with you in any way, please affirm it with me as we say together, and so it is, and so it is. It is now our opportunity to share in the flow of divine abundance and to express this through our tithes and through our offerings and through our donations to our spiritual community, knowing that all of the donations that come to this center allow us to support, help us to support the continuation of our spiritual community and spreading this word. And we have an affirmation of abundance that I invite us to say together. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so as our usher passes the basket here in the center, I invite those of you who are viewing online to share your abundance. You may do so by mailing in your checks to our physical location, 400 West Franklin Street, Monterey 93940. You may text to give, and that number is 831-246-9694. And you may also donate online through our website, montereycsl.org/donate. Thank you for your generosity. And also a reminder that we are in the midst of our Raise the Roof campaign to secure the funds that are needed for repairs before the rainy season begins. And so for those of you who have donated, thank you. We appreciate you. We appreciate the gifts and the way you support. And for those of you who are yet willing to donate, you may do so. Here in the center, we have a donation box here on the hospitality table. You may also donate online. And if you donate online, please, in the memo section, just write the word roof, and then those funds will be allocated to the proper fund. And so this is our opportunity to say thank you to our virtual community, our Facebook and our YouTube communities, and to remind you that Facebook at the end of this month is deleting all videos that are 30 days or older. And so we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you may go back and watch previous talks, previous presentations that you may have found inspiring or that you want to share with someone else. And by joining our YouTube channel, It supports the algorithms to get the message out that we are a viable community here in the Monterey Peninsula area that are part of a global community that is spreading the word that God is and all is well. We invite you to join us next week as we continue our monthly theme of Rolling in the Deep. And our topic next week will be Honor Your Boundaries. Boundaries are the way that we take care of ourselves. And we can learn to say a wholehearted yes and a wholehearted no to protect our space. So thank you and good morning.